Alrighty. Alrighty. So we are live. I'm going to wait a little bit, like a minute or so, for some girls to hop on. I literally just started the live, so we're going to wait a little bit longer. Hi, Dr. Rachel. Or Rachel. Hello, hello. Okay, so I'm going to wait a little bit before so girls can hop on, and then we'll get started. Okay. If anyone wants to comment where they're tuning in from, I would love to know that. Obviously, live webinar, we can come in from wherever. So, but I feel like a lot of my girls are in the Sarasota area, a lot of my patients and stuff, but I do have some virtual patients too. So we'll wait a little bit longer, like 20, 30 seconds, and then we'll get started. This is going to be recorded. So for those that are hopping on late, it's not going to, you'll be able to kind of catch the whole video and everything. So. Alrighty. Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started, and let's pull this up. Let's see if I can get this going. Perfect. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you guys for those that are hopping on. Those are kind of getting on right now. I am Dr. Jennifer. I am one of the Wellness Way docs at I'm one of the associate docs at the Wellness Way Sarasota. So I'm going to be teaching a webinar tonight on getting off birth control. Those that are on birth control, this webinar is really targeted for women that are on birth control right now, particularly the pill, and considering and thinking about getting off. And they're just kind of worried, nervous, not exactly sure, what to do. Or those that are maybe considering getting on birth control, or just want to learn about birth control and kind of what it does to the body and what the potential side effects are and all that kind of stuff. So we're going to be diving into a lot of that tonight. I am really passionate about birth control. I have my personal experience with birth control, and I'll be getting into that a little bit more tonight as well. So yeah, without further ado, we're going to go ahead and jump on in getting off birth control, what no one tells you and what I wish I was told when I was 19 years old and got off birth control, and how to support your body so your symptoms don't come back. That's the biggest thing. Is I always tell my patients, like, I don't judge anyone that's been on the pill or even thinking about getting on birth control. It is, really glorified. Like, it is God's gift to us, and can solve all our problems. And so definitely, it's a very common thing that we talk about a lot, but there's just so many other options that are available to us that is going to support our hormones. So this is what this is all about, is just how to support your body so your symptoms don't come back and get you transitioning successfully out of birth control. Okay, so if you've ever thought about coming off birth control but felt unsure, for those that are watching this, this literally may be you. Or you've come off birth control. Maybe you've come off before. At one point, I did come off myself after a couple of years of being on birth control, and experienced irregular cycles, acne, mood swings, painful periods, no cycle at all. So that's often what I see a lot of the time. Is a lot of the symptoms that the reason we got on, a lot of the symptoms come back. You are not alone. Truly, this is so normal, and this is so common when we see women get off birth control, that they end up having all the symptoms that they were dealing with, if not more, come back. And that's ultimately what's so important to understand, is there's a reason this is happening. That's why I say to a lot of my patients is, like, whether it be hormonal acne or bloating or constipation or PCOS or, like, you name it, any of the symptoms I see with my patients, there's a reason this is happening. You are not broken. You don't need to be fixed. You are not deficient in certain medications, or you're not like an anomaly. Oftentimes too, I would even think that about myself, as like, I'm just an anomaly and no one else has struggled like this, like me, or my body really is broken and needs to be fixed or, handled a certain way, or I just have to suffer like this the rest of my life, right? You're ultimately not alone. And these are things that it happens for a reason. Our body is constantly speaking to us. This is the way we were designed, for our body and our brain to always be speaking to us. And so, yeah, that's what we have to really understand, is understand that concept and you can really understand so much about your health. It's really empowering, honestly, if anything. Then we stop viewing the symptoms we may be experiencing like it's bad. It's really just like, oh, hey, something is going on and my body is alarming me of this and letting me in, that I'm, needing X, Y, and Z. I'm inflamed. I'm, you name it. It's different for everyone. So it's just important to know, that will always be like the foundation of how I approach with my patients, is understanding there's always a reason to the experience, to what you're experiencing. And it's our job to help you investigate of what that reason may be. So most women are told that get off birth control or considering getting off birth control. They're like, okay, yeah, your cycle will regulate itself. Just give it a few months. This is normal after coming off. It's not a big deal. But ultimately, no one is really explaining why the symptoms come back or what to do about it. The reality is, and that's why I find it a little comical. And at the time when I got on birth control, I didn't even necessarily think this way either at 19 years old. The symptoms that, I got on birth control at 19 for hormonal acne. That was really the only bad symptom I was experiencing at that time. And, did it help my hormonal acne? It did. Initially it did. And my acne went away and I was happy, right? But ended up on birth control for 4 or 5 years longer than that and ended up with so many more symptoms than I had dealt with 5 years prior. So what no one really explains is why the symptoms started to begin with, but also it's just almost common sense. If I take a certain medication for the symptom I'm experiencing and the symptom goes away, if I remove that medication now or remove whatever it is, the symptoms are going to come back. So then it's almost like we have to face this reality at some point, and it's always best to face it sooner than later. And this is what I wish when I was 19 years old, I had a woman that was hosting a random webinar on live to talk about this, and understand that there are other options and really the risks and adverse side effects that can come with being on birth control. Okay. So birth control does not fix hormone problems. It doesn't really fix anything. It suppresses them. So I kind of like the analogy of say our engine light goes on and I'm driving home and my engine light comes on. I'm not going to go in and find the bulb of where that engine light is and just unscrew the bulb and then boom, I don't have an engine issue anymore, right? No, I'm going to oh, my car is telling me I need to look at my engine or I need to look at, whatever it is. So that's kind of common sense. Same kind of thing with our body is if we are having these hormonal issues, we take birth control, it's just suppressing them. It's not actually fixing anything. You're not actually broken. You're not a car that needs to be fixed, right? It's a more so your body speaking to you, hey, something's wrong. Can you help? Let's dive into this a bit more. But instead, birth control is just suppressing the symptoms. Will the symptoms sometimes go away? Yes, they really will. So it can do a good job in that. But ultimately, you have to face the reality sooner than later. And the symptoms just don't end up going away, or the root cause of the symptoms won't go away through the pill. So today's focus, by the end of this training, you'll understand what birth control is actually doing in your body, why symptoms often return after stopping, what your body really needs to rebalance, and how to come off birth control with a plan. Like I was saying earlier, I have women who are on birth control. They come in, sit in front of me, they're on the pill, they have an IUD, they you name it. And that doesn't scare me. I'm not oh, I can't work with you. It's okay, cool. Well, oftentimes a lot of my women sit across from me and they're I want to get off the pill. I just don't know how. And I'm scared. Right. And we're going to get into more of that here in a second. So that was me. That was my story. And that is why one of the reasons I'm so passionate about birth control is because I really went through hell and back with my health. And so much of that can be tied back to being on the birth control pill for a long time. So what birth control actually does. Birth control works by suppressing ovulation. So ovulation is the main event. Ovulation is happening in the middle of the month in terms of our cycle. Ovulation, oftentimes people think a menstrual cycle is about the bleed. It's not. It is about the middle of the month. It's about the ovulation where the egg is releasing, or the follicle is releasing an egg for potential fertilization. So as women we have the beautiful ability to get pregnant and create life inside of us. And that is through ovulation, right? Birth control also alters hormone signals. So much of what is actually happening with hormones is about signaling. It is back to that brain body connection. And I will continue to kind of hit this point home that is what birth control is doing. It is cutting off that communication between our brain and our ovaries and our body in general in so many ways. And that is devastating to us. That is so devastating. Honestly, I just think it's so wrong. And in the name of women's health, it's just really neglecting what the beauty of how complex we are as women. And yeah, by just being like, let's just cut off the communication, let's just cut it off and like disregard it, and then it's changing your natural cycle. So we were born as women. Once we hit puberty and we are in our cycling years up until menopause, we were supposed to have this beautiful rhythm of life. We live in a rhythm in our natural cycle, and that is our sixth sense. And I don't think that's really taught very well growing up. As far as women, it's really just like, oh, you're gonna have a period, you're gonna bleed for a couple of days out of the month. It's gonna suck and it's gonna be painful, and then you just get through it, and that's it. There's so like little talks about your actual cycle. I'm not gonna dive into that tonight. Focus on birth control, but it changes your natural cycle, which means you're not actually having a true cycle while you're on it. But oftentimes maybe you're like listening in and you're like, oh, but I have a bleed, like I'm actually bleeding. That monthly bleed on birth control is not a real period. It is a withdrawal bleed from synthetic hormones. So quick little physiology lesson. So when we have a period, in our follicular state, our estrogens are rising during that follicular phase, and then to kind of prepare the follicle to eventually release the egg at ovulation. At ovulation, our estrogen, our testosterone is nice and high to release that egg in preparation for potential fertilization, to get pregnant. And then in our luteal phase, our progesterone is now rising because it's preparing for potential fertilization. And then that progesterone is rising to prepare for pregnancy. If we don't get pregnant, then all of our hormones are going to come back down. And then that is what tells the body to then shed that lining. So then we start bleeding again. So that triggers the bleed. Okay. When we are on the pill, we are being fed synthetic progestin, estrogens, like hormone, that kind of stuff. And then that placebo week is where you're taking those like little white pills, or like in this case, they're like the darker brown pills. Mine were white. Every flavor is a little different. So when you're taking those pills, those are just placebo pills. There's nothing really in them. So that is basically the body's now like, oh, there's no hormone, I'm going to bleed. So it is a withdrawal bleed. It is not a true like actual natural cycle. So why this matters? Because if your body isn't cycling naturally, we don't actually know, one, if you're ovulating. Most of the time we're not ovulating if we're on the pill, which once again, this is what's so important is a lot of time with ovulation, we think like, oh, well, I'm not trying to get pregnant, so it doesn't really matter if I'm ovulating, which is so not true. I am not actively trying to get pregnant right now, but I care so much about making sure I'm ovulating. Not just that my female patients are ovulating, but that it's a strong ovulation. That is a sign of a healthy body, of healthy hormones. And that's what we're really after, is because hormones are just make up who we are. They affect so much of our day to day that we want to make sure we're having a strong ovulation, because it sets us up for a great life and our great health. It also we don't actually know if your hormones are balanced to begin with and what your body is doing underneath. Once again, it's cutting off that communication between our brain and our body. So we don't actually know kind of what the heck's going on. And that's when it gets a little scary, because at this point we're just kind of succumbing to what the birth control pill is actually doing in our body, and just surrendering to, however our body responds to that. The biggest misunderstanding, there's a lot of misunderstandings. I could go into all the different myths, but we're going to keep it kind of shorter tonight. Many women think, I'll just come off and see what happens. Like, let's just, we'll see what happens. Like, let's hope for the best. Hope my acne doesn't come back. Hope my bad cramps don't come back. Hope my cycle's regular. But what your body does after birth control is ultimately a reflection of what's happening internally. So I often say with my female patients, I like to wait, say they get off birth control, I like to wait like 3 cycles, or at least 3 months, but 3 cycles ideally, before we look into any hormonal stuff, because we want to give your body some time to kind of settle back in and re-regulate. But really, and this is what's crazy, is it takes up to 2 years to fully regulate your cycle and your natural cycle again, and kind of try to connect that brain body connection after being on the pill, especially if you've been on the pill long term. So this is where it's so devastating when we're on the pill for a long time. I was on the pill for 5 years, and it has taken years to end up really regulating my health again and regulating my hormones. And to this day, I mean, I still will have kind of some relapses, but I mean, it's night and day than when I first got off the pill forever ago. But what your body does after the pill, once again, is a reflection of what's happening internally. So that's why it's so important to get proper testing done to figure out what is going on with the body. And it does give us some indication of like, oh, okay, so these symptoms are coming back. So these imbalances are still there. The pill was just kind of masking that. All right. What symptoms, why symptoms come back? So when you're coming off birth control, the underlying patterns that were there before are still there more than likely. Right. So this is where it's a matter of figuring out what caused those hormonal imbalances to begin with. So ideally, before we even get on the pill, we would like to have had these things addressed prior to getting on the pill. This is what I wish at 19 years old. I wish someone would have been like, asked even a single question about my diet, about my lifestyle, about my workout regimen, about my stress, like about my sleep, like anything about my life that could potentially be leading to my hormonal acne or my acne in general. But instead, it was just like, it's probably hormonal. Here's a drug. So common ones that lead to some of these symptoms coming back. First and foremost, obviously, hormonal imbalances. Oftentimes, so for instance, for me, my acne came back after getting on birth control, along with so many other symptoms. But to begin with, it was why the hormonal, like the pill worked for me and my acne went away for a couple of years there when I was on the pill, was because I was feeding myself progestin, which is synthetic progesterone. And I was deficient in progesterone. I was depleted. And looking back, I know I was so stressed. I was so inflamed. My diet was trash. I was just started school. Like it was depleting all my progesterone because it was pushing down cortisol. So I was so stressed out, depleting my progesterone. My body's not worrying about ovulating or my reproductive and my hormonal health. It's worried about survival. And yeah, then I started getting acne. And that was my body's way of speaking to me. I don't think I have a slide on this point, but I love to say, listen to your body when it whispers so you don't have to hear it scream. A whisper at that time was having hormonal acne. I was getting acne around my mouth and my chin. I was seriously bloated, that kind of stuff. And that was my body's way of telling me, hey, something is wrong. Like, please look into this a little bit more. Okay. Also, feel free for those that are watching to pop questions in the chat, and I'm happy to stop and answer any questions. There will also be a time of Q&A at the end too. But yeah, just wanted to plant that in there as well. Okay. Oftentimes too, why symptoms come back is because of nutrient depletion. We'll get into this in a second, but birth control depletes so many vital nutrients, our B vitamins, our zinc, magnesium, so many things that are ironically so important for fertility as well. So the concept of like, yeah, if you're on birth control for contraceptive reasons and you're not trying to get pregnant, but then eventually I want to get pregnant, right? And then we just pop off the pill. We're taught like, oh yeah, you just want to get pregnant, just hop off the pill and you can get pregnant. And it's ironic because so many of the nutrients needed for a healthy pregnancy, not just for the ability to get pregnant, but for a healthy pregnancy. I want our pregnancies to be beautiful and wonderful, not just struggling for 9 months, right? So that's what it's about too. But it depletes so many important nutrients. And then stress patterns. Stress is huge. Arguably, I feel like with my especially my female patients, we can work on so many things and we see lots of progress, but then it always ends up coming back down to stress. How are we managing our stress? How is our mental, emotional state? How is our nervous system? Nervous system regulation is everything. If we are living in a fight or flight, stressed out state, we are not going to be able to heal, and it is going to throw our hormones so out of whack. So that's why it will always, always, always come down to making sure our stress levels are low. Okay, birth control doesn't actually address what's causing your symptoms. It temporarily suppresses them, while underlying imbalances can continue and sometimes, I would argue, oftentimes worsen over time. So once again, birth control is not addressing the root cause. That is my entire approach. Is I want to know, why is this? I'm always asking why. Like, that is always what I'm asking, is like, my patients are like, yeah, my sleep is trash. I wake up at 3 a.m. I'm getting acne. I'm feeling bloated. And I'm thinking, why? Like, there is a reason, right? Coming back to that, there's always a reason. It is our job to figure out why. And that looks different for everyone. That's the thing, is we are like I could be having chronic bloating, and that could be very different from the reason Dr. Rachel's having chronic bloating or my friend is having chronic bloating, right? So this is why it's so important to understand care in your health needs to be very individualized to you, not just what we think like, oh, works for every other 29-year-old female. Like, it's got to be catered to you, because the stressors in life is going to look different for everyone. So birth control doesn't actually address what's going on, right? And why women are scared to come off. And this is literally me. I was so scared to come off. I put it off for years because they've often experienced acne coming back. That was literally me. I did not want to I've got off birth control actually it was like 2-3 years into being on birth control. And I was actually in a kind of a bodybuilding era. And my coach at the time told me to get off birth control, which was like probably not the best, but he was like, "You probably holding on to water weight because of the pill." I would get off. And I just got off of it. And what happened? My acne came back and I was like, bump this. I'm getting back on the pill. I'm not dealing with this. So the reality is I wish going back, I would have just faced it and like found a holistic practitioner, but I didn't even know about this world. I was just like, nope, not doing it. Got back on the pill. So oftentimes we're scared to come off because they don't want their acne to come back, painful cycles returning, or irregular or missing periods. And they think, I don't want to go through that again. And this literally may be you right now. If you're listening to this may be you. And what I want to say, and I want to say this in the most like loving way, is the reality is the longer we hold off, the worse, the longer our body is disconnected from itself. And that's what can lead to so many more issues. So it's like, when I got off, if I would have gone off birth control the 2 years in, would my acne have come back? Yes, a little bit, but I would not have been dealing with the literal PCOS and the GERD and the reflux and the digestive issues that I dealt with 5 years later, had I just kind of started to address things earlier on. Okay. So that's why I was encouraged. There may be a period when it comes to healing. There oftentimes is a period where it's kind of ugly. It's painful. It sucks. But oftentimes the only way out is through. And the sooner we hop onto that, the better. But also too, like there are things that we can be doing. And that's what this whole point of this webinar is about, that we can be doing to set yourself up to where not all those symptoms are going to come back either. And that's what this whole webinar is all about. So these are some lovely images of me a couple years ago, or many years ago. What if the symptoms aren't something to fear, but are signals your body needs support? So this is actually when I was still on the pill, kind of coming off. These are taken at different times, but I was so bloated. Like 5 years on the pill, I had the worst digestive issues. I was chronically constipated. I would go like 1 time a week. Always bloated no matter what I ate. This is a picture of my acne and everything too. Yeah, I was so sick. This is like my mid-20s. And this was while being on the pill too. And I didn't even tie it together as far as like, wow, this is actually a reason why I'm getting so sick. It didn't even make sense. But ultimately, this is once again my body is screaming for help of like, hey, there's something wrong. Please dive deeper because we are miserable over here. So instead of coming off and hoping for the best, we can prepare your body so it transitions smoothly. I did not I really think had I had been seeing a wellness way doctor, had I been full force, like the kind of care I offer my patients, had I had that when I got off the pill, I did kind of just get off. Had I had that, my transition would have been a lot smoother. But I didn't have that at the time. I just went ahead. I was scared. I was like, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and get off. I did have a provider tell me, if you want to have babies someday, I would really reconsider your relationship with the pill, because he knew the devastating impact that the birth control pill can have on me. So we ultimately are preparing my patients' bodies to transition smoothly off the pill and regulate your hormones naturally. So what your body needs, there are key systems that need support when coming off birth control. So biggest one is liver. And we're going to dive into these nitty gritty here. Liver is huge. Arguably, like I think this is one of the things that is neglected most when it comes to our hormones, is our liver plays a huge role in detoxing excess hormone. So our liver detox pathways, nutrient replenishment, making sure, oftentimes my girls are just not eating enough. We skip breakfast, we skip lunch, we like 1,200 calories a day and think that can like replenish and nourish our body, and it just can't. Hormone signaling, once again, trying to re-signal that, rewire and reconnect that connection between our brain and our body. And our gut health. I love talking about the gut. I love the gut so much. And so much of our health and our foundation of our health can come back to our gut. So that's why oftentimes the whole phrase like hot girls have tummy issues. I made a video about this recently, but so many women I know have tummy issues and gut issues because their hormones are out of whack, and their hormones are out of whack, and the root cause is because of their gut. So we'll dive into these now. Liver support. Okay, so your liver processes hormones, including synthetic ones. So, and if it's overwhelmed, so our liver is known, like I feel like most people know liver is our main detox organ. It's what detoxes all the toxins that our body naturally produces, free radicals in the bodies, toxins that we're ingesting, toxins that we're putting on our skin and our makeup, things like that. But if the liver is just bogged down with medications or stress or inflammation or toxins in the environment or our products, that it ultimately cannot function as well. And it bogs up our detox pathways as well. This can lead to acne, to estrogen imbalance, and sluggish cycles. Estrogen dominance, a huge role. Like when I see my patients that are like more estrogen dominant, endometriosis, things like that, my immediate thought is their liver. Oftentimes the liver is not flushing properly and not detoxing those excess hormone. Also, too, gut plays a big role as well. I'm going to get into that in a second, but I'll focus on the liver. The liver plays a huge role in making sure we're getting rid of excess hormone and not going to lead to any imbalances. Supporting your liver helps your body to clear out synthetic hormones and rebalance naturally. Same thing, like with actually being on the pill, if our liver is also having a hard time, that's going to impact our relationship with the pill as well. But ultimately, we don't want to be having excess synthetic hormone. We want to be making sure we have a balanced hormones naturally without the pill as well. So big one here, I included a snapshot of the Dutch test, dried urine test of comprehensive hormones. It's a phenomenal test. This is really what's showing us how well your liver is converting excess our hormones into the different estrogens and the estrogen metabolites. And that's these little kind of bars here. I'm not going to go into too much, but these little bars here show us if there is any discrepancies going on that can tell us that the liver is having a really hard time getting rid of excess hormone. Nutrient depletion, this is huge. So birth control is known as a fact to deplete our B vitamins, which are involved with like every single biochemical pathway in our body. Magnesium and B vitamins are involved in all of them. So magnesium also involved with over 300 different pathways in our body that happen in our body without us even thinking about it. These are going to be depleted. So the reality is we're on birth control long term, and then suddenly we're like, well, why is my I can do this little one. This is cute. Why is now I'm feeling fatigued. Now I'm feeling anxious. I was diagnosed with general anxiety disorder. I was tired and wired. I was a zombie. I couldn't poop. I was literally so miserable. And then I was still having acne. And this is a prime example of the nutrients that my body needs to function optimally, not just survive. I was surviving. I was alive, right? Not just survive, but to thrive. The nutrients that were needed are being depleted. Same thing with zinc. Zinc is super important also in ovulation as well too. These are essential for hormone production, ovulation, energy, everything I was just talking about, along with so many other things. And we're just literally taking in a pill that is depleting ourselves of this. And then we wonder why our body feels like it's failing us. I literally remember thinking like my body is failing me. My body is actually failing me and I do not know what to do. All right, so nutrient depletion. If we don't replenish nutrients, your body doesn't have the building blocks to restore a healthy cycle. So this is where I put here like the foundation of a house, if you will. So much of restoring and rebuilding our house has to start with the foundations. The foundation being like the soil that we plant something in, right? So we want to make sure we're getting proper hydration. We're nourishing our body well. It's not just about putting extra like supplements and medications or anything like that. And doing all the fancy stuff. It's really about, let's talk with the foundations. How is our stress management? How is our sleep? How are we moving our body? Are we getting outdoors? Are we grounding? Are we getting sunlight? Are we getting proper nutrients, through our diet, like looking at our diet as well. And nutrients is often like one of the biggest things I see so often with my girls is we're just not eating enough. And there's so many reasons as to why I feel like we're not eating enough. But yeah, that comes down, it's as simple as that. It's like we feel tired and we're depleted in energy because we're just not eating and fueling our body as well. Hormone signaling. Okay. So this one is, once again, I think this is the most like devastating aspect of the pill is how it literally cuts off the communication between your brain and your body. So your brain and your ovaries have to reconnect. After we get off the pill or in this process, we are trying to kind of reconnect the two. And this definitely takes time. This is probably the hardest part. And the thing that I think takes the most time is restoring that connection. If your brain and your body and your ovaries, let's say, have been disconnected for so long, unfortunately, it's just the way physiology is. Unfortunately, we stop taking the pill. Our brain is not just like, oh, boom, okay, like we're back at it. It often takes more time. And this can take like years. Like I said, studies have shown it takes up to 2 years to really regulate after being on the pill, especially, I have patients who've been on the pill for 5, 10, 15 years, like truly. They've been on the pill since they were 14 years old and they're 29 now. And we can't expect the body to get off the pill and then boom, we're like back to square one, right? So that's where it takes a lot of time. And there are certain things we can do. There's certain supplements that can kind of help support that HPA, HPO axis, that hypothalamus pituitary ovary axis to just kind of help reconnect. So that way the brain can speak to the ovaries like, hey, it's time to produce estrogen. It's time to produce progesterone, like these kinds of things too. So this takes time and support. This is why it's so important to not do this alone, because it can feel so like you can feel so helpless and so hopeless. I remember feeling that way. I was like, I am never going to feel the same again. I hate my life. I just have to suffer through this, and hopefully I can get pregnant someday. But at that point, I know at that point I was not ovulating. I was not, if I was actually trying to have a baby, I know I could not have. Especially yet, once again, if you've been on birth control long term, and if your cycles were irregular before. So oftentimes women get on the pill to regulate their cycles, and sometimes it does, once again, because we're just feeding it synthetic hormone, and the body is so smart. The body is so smart. It's like, oh, I'm being fed this hormone. I don't need to produce it anymore. So it literally just stops producing that hormone, and then we get off the pill, and then our hormones are like postmenopausal levels, like so low. So we've got to work on kind of reigniting that brain, that pituitary, to produce hormone for us. Gut connection, my favorite thing to talk about. I love talking about the gut. So your gut plays a major role in hormone balance. If the gut is off, hormones can recirculate improperly. So to give an example of this, if we are super constipated, if we're going, ladies, if we're not going to the bathroom 1 to 3 times a day, we're constipated. Okay. So that is an issue. One of the biggest ways we detox excess hormone is through regular bowel movements. We're literally defecating. Our body, through our digestive process, will pull out the nutrients, the vitamins, minerals, the macronutrients, whatever we need to function and to thrive. And it's like, cool, thank you. I don't need the rest. And we literally poop out the rest, right? If we are not pooping regularly, we are not getting rid of that excess hormone. And what's happening? It's sitting in our intestines, and it's literally recirculating into our body. So our liver is, OD. It's on overtime. It's OD, and it cannot handle all the excess hormone that's happening. And then we wonder why we have estrogen dominance, because we're just recirculating those hormones. Okay, if our gut health is off, inflammation is going to increase big time, and then symptoms are going to worsen. So that's not just if we're constipated. If our bowel movements are super loose, if they're like 5 times a day and they're like loose and diarrhea, we're also not going to be able to we're not absorb. It's just running right out of us. That is a huge sign of like, hey, something is wrong and there's some dysbiosis in the gut. Let's figure out what's going on there. Let's look into the gut. Let's look at food allergies. Let's look at what's inflaming us, because we want to make sure we're also having healthy, normal formed bowel movements, not just running right through us. Because also that's why we eat food, is to absorb all the nutrients. And if we're just going right through us, we're not absorbing anything. All right. So why people struggle? Once again, most people try to do this alone. And that was definitely me. They stop birth control. We wait and see what happens. We Google symptoms like, oh crap, my acne's coming back. Oh crap, like I'm having cystic acne now. Oh, I now have really painful periods. I haven't had a period in 8 months. Like, what does that mean? And Google symptoms, ChatGPT symptoms, and then we try random supplements and hope that that will work. Okay, maybe if I start taking zinc, or maybe if I start taking like female gland, like will that work? Like we're just hoping for things that it's going to work, that we see on Instagram or TikTok. Like, oh well, this girl does this, maybe this will help me, right? Instead of understanding that hormonal imbalances, once again, is driven by so many different things, that what works for one girl will probably maybe work for you, but maybe not, So that's why it's important to not waste money on all these supplements and random things in hopes that our hormones rebalance. But ultimately just do proper testing, figure out what is explicitly going on with you, with Jennifer, and go from it from there. But without understanding what your body specifically needs, like I'm saying, you're guessing. Ultimately, that is what we say here, is we don't guess, we test. I am not just throwing things at you that I'm like, maybe this will help her. Like, let's go ahead and get started and just waste money. We're going to do proper testing to figure out, oh, it's a cortisol issue. Oh, it's an insulin resistance issue. Oh, it is an immune system issue. Your body, there's autoimmune going on now. Oh, it's a thyroid issue. Oh, it's a gut issue. Like, it could be so many different reasons. And oftentimes too, it's more than just one. It's very rarely just, oh, you have insulin resistance, or like, oh, you have like parasites or something like that. It's oftentimes a collage of things. That's where it's a holistic approach. Holistic meaning the entire body is connected. So often what symptom we're experiencing is a combination, a conglomeration of different systems of the body that are all kind of impacting one another. And that's why often so many women are just like, you know what? I'm done with this. I'm just going to get back on birth control. And I have been there. I've literally done it. I've gotten off birth control, gone back on, and then I finally got off birth control and decided to just send it. I'm going to go lock in and commit to the holistic approach to rebalancing my hormones. And I'm so happy to say that I don't deal with the acne, the bloating, like all these symptoms that I was miserable. Like I was diagnosed with general anxiety disorder. The GERD was a huge one, silent reflux. It was so bad. I was on so many medications, just masking symptoms, and I was miserable, and I was like 25. So it's sad how much what the epidemic that is, like how women's health is taken, how little women are actually taken care of in this country, truly. And they're just neglected and then left to kind of figure it out on themselves. And that's where ultimately we step in to help. So the question becomes, what does it actually look like to come off birth control the right way? So this is what I wish was available to me at the time. I just didn't find the wellness way quite yet, but what we do differently. So these are some examples of some testing that we do differently to help you kind of figure out what's actually going on. Where is your internal environment right now? So we can support that while we're transitioning off the pill to basically set ourselves up for the best success here. Okay. So at our clinic, we don't guess. Once again, we test. We test to understand a couple things. Hormone patterns. Are we estrogen dominant? Are we androgen dominant? Is our testosterone super high and our progesterone is tanked? That was my story. Is our estrogen, wish I knew back then what I know now, right? Literally, I would do anything to know what I know now. But at the same time, I'm grateful that I went through all that I went through, because now I can speak from personal experience of like, this approach works. It saved me. So yes, but I definitely do. I wish I knew what I knew then, knew now back then. We test to understand nutrient levels. So right here, I don't know if you can see my cursor or not, but this top or bottom left marker here, we run something called a NutriEval now, which is incredible. It literally straight up explicitly tells you what nutrients we're deficient in. So our zinc, our omega-3s, our B vitamins, our antioxidant support. That's a huge one. Oxidative stress. I won't go into too much, but I love that. I love this test. And that shows us, we're deficient in these nutrients. Our gut health, looking into a stool test, this top right here is showing us a bit of dysbiosis, inflammation, infections, things like that. If there's some gut health, that stuff going on, we go ahead and jump into gut health. And then other areas of interference. That's the thing. It's all about figuring out what is interfering with our body's ability to heal. It's not like, I'm broken and I need something to fix me. It's like, there's something that's interfering with my God-given ability to heal. That is what our body does. It is self-maintaining, self-healing, self-developing. So if those things aren't happening, there's something that is a roadblock, right? So that is where we test to figure out what are your roadblocks specifically. And when you go through this process, you will truly understand your body. That is what's so empowering, is you end up falling in love with being a woman, honestly, and you will fall in love with your body, fall in love with your hormones, because you understand your body so much more. You understand what needs support, and we have a plan tailored to you. Like I keep saying, this is a very individualized approach. Often even other functional medicine approaches are just like, these are supplements that we know can reduce inflammation or can help with estrogen or these kind of things, and throw things at you and hope it works. That is not our approach. We're going to curate a very tailored plan to you specifically. So who is this for? This is for if you are thinking about coming off birth control. If you are literally on the pill right now and you took your pill this morning and you're like, man, I don't know, like I want to get pregnant soon, or I don't know if I even want to keep doing this. I don't even know what this is doing to my body. Or if you've come off and your cycle hasn't normalized still, maybe you've already kind of done it and you got off the pill and we are still seeing irregular cycles. We're still seeing those symptoms come back. If you want to get pregnant in the future, this is so huge. Oftentimes, one of the biggest things I see with women in preparing for pregnancy is just that. It's the lack of preparation. It's just like, boom, I think we want to start trying, and you start trying. And it's like, no, I really encourage there be a period, months of time where you're preparing, both you and your husband or your partner, in preparing for pregnancy to have the greatest conception possible and pregnancy possible. And you don't want symptoms to come back. So if you don't want your symptoms to come back and you're like, I'm not quite ready to stop tomorrow, but I don't want my symptoms to come back, this is ultimately for you as well. As we can, like I said, I see patients who are sitting across from me and have an IUD in them, or have or are taking the birth control pill. We can go ahead and start working on all the other things. You don't have to be afraid to come off birth control. That is ultimately kind of the biggest thing I want to say here, when you have a plan in place. So it is scary to do it alone. And I did it myself and it was super scary. But if you have someone that's guiding you through it, literally like holding your hand through it, of knowing like, hey, so the symptoms you're experiencing right now, this is totally normal. Like, I've been there. This is why, and can give you explicitly why this is happening. It's just really empowering knowing like this too shall pass, especially knowing I'm on a tailored plan that's going to get me to where I want to be. And we don't have to just live in fear and hope for the best. So I'm going to read through this. If you have been on birth control for years and don't even know what your natural cycle looks like, if you've been told it's the solution for acne, painful periods, or irregular cycles, that is what we're told. I feel like any hormonal issue, if you go into your doctor and they're like, yeah, I'm having irregular cycles, I'm having painful periods, I'm having acne, it's just like birth control, birth control, birth control. It's like, that's the only option. There's so many other options for you. If you're thinking about coming off but feel nervous about what might happen, totally valid. You don't need another temporary fix. You don't need to understand. You need to understand what birth control has been masking and what your body actually needs to function on its own. You can spend the next 6 months guessing, dealing with symptoms and hoping your cycle comes back, or you can spend the next 6 months, resting and knowing that your hormones, focusing on supporting your hormones and your body the way it was designed to function truly. So that's what's so empowering about kind of having like a tour guide. I often say with my patients, like, I am more of a tour guide to just, we're partnering in your health together, entering the next 6 months to like almost like a 4 to 6 months for like a sprint of like, we are dialing in on your health above all else, to set us up for the greatest success in the future, whether that be obviously getting out of these symptoms you're experiencing, or just if it is pregnancy, whatever your goals may be, that is my focus as well. So for those that are on and that are not already patients, or maybe you are, but this is an event exclusive new patient evaluation. Oh my gosh, hold on. What happened? Oh no. Okay. So this is an event exclusive new patient evaluation. So basically this is those that were on tonight's webinar, for 48 hours only. So this is the webinar attendee special. So what's included in this kind of special here is a comprehensive new patient evaluation. This can be in person or virtual. So I see patients from all over. I have patients from all over the country. That in-person appointment, obviously it will involve x-rays and inside scans and more things that we can do in person. Obviously for virtual, we can't do those things. This is the new patient evaluation special tonight is only $99. Normally it's $199. So those that are kind of my thank you for joining, this is available to you. And you're also getting a $100 credit towards recommended lab testing that on that first new patient appointment, we're going to be doing a deep dive into everything. And based on kind of everything that you're going through, I'm going to recommend certain testing, whether it be jumping straight into food allergies and inflammation and the gut. Or if it's like, no, let's go ahead and jump into your thyroid and hormones and looking into Dutch tests and blood work. Or if it's, let's see what deficiencies we've got going on. Let's look at a NutriVal. Like you name it, we figure out what testing is going to be best for you to start out. That $100 is going to go towards that. So essentially this kind of cancels it out. It's essentially free to go ahead and get started. We're also going to review any health history, personalized lab testing recommendations, like I'm already saying, but also too, I recommend my patients to send in any external labs. Like say you've had recent lab work done, whether you've been on the pill or not, any kind of labs, I always encourage, like the more information, the better. That's what labs really are, is just information. So much information to give us kind of an educated, understanding moving forward with your health as well. So if you're virtually obviously watching this, you can scan here for virtual, or you can scan here for in person. And that will send you straight to the link to book with me. I believe I have some availability this week, but definitely next week, just see what works best with your schedule and my schedule as well. We can get started. We can finally, meet each other and hear your story. And get you the answers that you're looking for. So that is the end of my webinar. If there's any other questions or anything for me, feel free to ask any comments, concerns, questions. I'm happy to answer them. And I'll hang out for a little bit longer. But if not, thank you guys so much for joining. If there's no questions, you can ask them in the chat. But you can also just wait to ask me on our virtual call as well. All right. Well, it doesn't seem like there's any questions coming up. So I will hop off. You're also welcome to set up a complimentary call as well online to speak with one of our providers, just kind of hearing a little bit more, and then we'll still honor the event exclusive too. Common question I hear often, can someone start care before they actually get off birth control? Yes. So that is 100%. We can totally start care before you get off birth control. Like I would start now, I would not start like, oh, well, let me wait to build up the courage to get off the pill and then I'll go see Dr. Jen. I would start right now, like right now. Even if you're not trying to get off in the next couple months, there's still so much we can do to support your body. That maybe you're like, I want to stay on the pill, Dr. Jen, for the next 6 months. Like, I don't want to deal with it. I'm like, absolutely. There's no pressure. I never pressure anyone to get off birth control. I am just big on, I like to say I'm not anti-pill. I'm pro informed consent. I am pro make this decision of remaining on the pill or getting on the pill with understanding what it's actually doing. And I'm like, when I was 19 years old, if I knew all this, I would have been like, no, I'll figure it out. Like, you know what I mean? So, yeah. So that question is, can someone start care before they actually get off birth control? Absolutely. You can totally start care. If anything, I would recommend starting sooner than later. So great question. Alrighty. Any other questions? We can wrap things up. Thank you guys so much for hopping on. Yeah. And once again, feel free to reach out to us, set up a comp call, and then these are available to you as well. I would love to meet you and hear your story and get you all the phenomenal care that I'm so grateful to have found in the Wellness Way. It is my greatest passion. So thank you guys for hopping on. If there's no other questions, then I will call it a night. And I hope everyone has a great night's sleep and gets to bed soon. Okay. All right. Bye. Bye guys. Thanks.